Good evening and welcome to another edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Still in Season 2, and tonight on Episode 59 on this May 3rd, 2023, we're going to be looking at a card game. Yes, a two-player card game variant of Rummy has enjoyed widespread popularity as both a social and a gambling game, especially during the mid-20th century, and remains today one of the most widely played two-player card games. Tonight, on this edition, Episode 59 presents Gin Rummy, next on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. Wednesday or happy hump day to you all, and welcome to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm your host, Jason DiCanio, and we're in the month of May, and hope you had a fantastic April, as that month is now finished, and we now go onward into the month of May, and soon to wind up our Season 2 shows with some more good stuff coming up, because when the first week in June comes around, we will end our Season 2 right there between June 1st and June 3rd. So we'll let you know when the exact final show of Season 2 is going to happen. But tonight we have a good one for you. It's a game, and it's a card game for that matter. So we're looking at some card games. We're looking at Gin Rummy. And Gin Rummy was created in 1909 by Eldwood T. Baker and his son C. Graham Baker. The game remained local to New York until 1941, when it was publicized throughout the United States after becoming a Hollywood fad. Magician and writer John Scarnay believed Gin Rummy to have evolved from 19th century whiskey poker, which is a game similar to commerce, with players forming poker combinations, and to have been created with the intention of being faster than standard rummy, but less spontaneous than knock rummy. Card game historian David Parlett finds Scarnay's theory to be highly implausible and considers the game of Conquian to be Gin Rummy's forerunner. Well, Gin Rummy is played using a standard deck of 52 cards. The ranking from high to low is King, Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And the ace is actually the low man on the totem pole. Not the high man, but the low. King is high, ace is low. The objective in Gin Rummy is to be the first to reach an agreed-upon score, usually 100 points. The basic game strategy is to improve one's hand by forming melds and eliminating deadwood. Gin has two types of melds: sets of 3 or 4 cards sharing the same rank. Example, 8s, and runs or sequences of 3 or more cards in the same suit, such as 3 of hearts, 4 of hearts, 5 of hearts, or more. And deadwood cards are those not in any meld. Aces are considered low, and they can form a set with other aces, but only the low end of the runs. That is, ace, 2, 3 in the spades is a legal run, but ace or king, queen, ace is not. So a player can form any combination of melds within their hand, all sets, all runs, or some sets and some runs. The deadwood count is the sum of the point values of the deadwood cards. Aces are scored at 1 point, face cards at 10, and others according to their numerical values. Intersecting melds are not allowed. So if a player has a 3-card set and a 3-card run sharing a common card, only one of the melds counts, and the other 2 cards count as deadwood. For example, within the 5 cards, you have 3 sevens, a 7, 8, 9 of diamonds, and one of those 7s. The 7 of diamonds can be included in the set of the 3 sevens or included in the run, the 7, 8, 9 of diamonds, but it cannot be included in both. So you can either use it for one or the other. Dealership alternates from round to round, with the first dealer chosen by any agreed upon method. The dealer deals 10 cards to each player at one at a time, starting with their opponent, and then places the next card in the deck face up. This begins the discard pile. The face down pile is known as the stock pile. On the first turn of the round, the non-dealing player has first option of taking the up card on the discard pile or passing. If the non-dealing player takes the up card, they must then discard a different card to the discard pile. The player acting second can take the top card from the pile of their choice. However, if the non-dealing player passes the up card, the dealer is given the opportunity to take the up card or pass, and if the dealer also passes, the non-dealing player must draw from the stockpile. Then, the next turn and after, players can draw from their pile of their choice. On each subsequent turn, a player must draw either the face-up top card of the discard pile or the face-down top card from the stock pile and discard one card from their hand onto the discard pile. If a player chooses to draw a face-up card from the discard pile, he cannot discard the same card he just took. Players alternate taking turns until one player ends the round by declaring the hand over, knocking, or until only 2 cards remain in the stockpile, in which case the round ends in a draw and no points are awarded. The game ends when a player reaches 100 or more points, or another established amount. In tournament rules, the game is played in the best of 5 with 250 points per game. Now, in standard gin, a player with 10 or fewer points of deadwood may knock, immediately ending the hand without giving the opponent a chance to play. Knocking with no deadwood is known as going gin or having a gin hand, while knocking with deadwood points is known as going down. When discarding to end a turn, a player who wishes to knock must clearly indicate their intent. This is generally shown by laying the discard face down, but can also be done through a verbal declaration or by tapping the playing surface. The player then lays out their hand, organized into melds and with any deadwood separated from them. The opponent or defending player shows their melds and is entitled to lay off any deadwood cards that fit into the knocking player's melds, provided that the knocking player does not go gin. For example, suppose that the knocking player has a meld of 3 kings. If the defending player is holding the 4th king as deadwood, they may lay it off by adding it to the meld and thus reduce their wet deadwood by 10. The difference in the 2 players' deadwood counts determines the score for the hand as follows. If the knocking player has the lower count, they score points equal to the difference. The defending player can undercut the knocking player by having a lower or equal count, and in this case, the defending player scores the difference plus a bonus, usually 15 points. An undercut may occur either before or after the defending player has laid off any deadwood. The knocking player can never lay off their deadwood into the defending player's melds. And a player who goes gin, for example, has no deadwood, gets a bonus, typically of 25 points. A player holding a gin hand may also choose to continue the round instead of revealing it in hopes of obtaining an 11-card big gin hand as follows. If a player draws or takes a card that can be used to form melds with the 10 cards already held, the player declares big gin and the hand ends. That player scores a big gin bonus, typically 31 points, plus the defending player's deadwood count, and that player may not lay off any cards. Aces are scored as 1 point, face cards at 10, and all other cards are scored at their numerical values. The number of points awarded for bonuses may vary from region to region. No matter what the bonus amounts are, points are scored in gin for the following. You got your knock points, gin bonus, the undercut, the game bonus, the line bonus or box, the big gin, and the shutout bonus. If you shut your player out, you get an additional 50 points. There's also straight gin, mahjong gin, Oklahoma gin, Hollywood gin, Tedesco gin, single match, multi-match. And here are some of the players. Stu Ungar, he was widely regarded as the greatest gin rummy player of all time. He was described by many as having a near clairvoyant ability to see his opponent's hands. Ungar's almost total dominance of the game during the 70s and 80s is thought to have been a factor in the decline of Gin Rummy as a tournament game in Las Vegas and other gambling venues. Ungar eventually switched to poker. Oswald Jacoby, best known as a contract bridge and backgammon champion, also played high-stakes Gin Rummy and wrote several books on the game. Ernie Kovacs, the comedian and television pioneer, published a book in 1962 called How to Talk at Gin. The villain, Auric Goldfinger, cheats at Gin Rummy in the key introduction scene of the James Bond film Goldfinger in 1964 with the help of an accomplice looking at the opponent's cards through binoculars. The film script changed the game to Gin Rummy from two-handed canasta in the source novel by Ian Fleming. In The Golden Girls, Sophia Petrillo and her daughter, Dorothy Zbornak, spend the entire night playing Gin Rummy with Dorothy trying to beat her mother's endless winning streak, but to no avail. And some of the other games of card, we'll be looking at card games, and in fact, we'll start this Friday with Canasta. That's going to be looking really good. Canasta comes up next this Friday. It's a card game of the Rummy family of games believed to be a variant of 500 Rummy, and although many variations exist for 2, 3, 5, or 6 players, it is most commonly played by 4 in 2 partnerships with standard decks of cards. They make melds. They go out. It is the most recent card game to have achieved worldwide status as a classic. We'll look at that classic Canasta game this Friday on episode 60 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason Icanio, thanking you so much for a look at this edition of the Retro Toys and Games Gin Rummy. We hope that you had a great week ahead, and the middle of the week is very kind to you. When we see you on Friday, we'll look at Canasta. From all of us here at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, I'm Jason Icanio. We will see you on Friday. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David3000 Network for great more content like this one.